A runaway girl named Saou stayed at strangers' houses in exchange for them being able to use her body for their desires. Then, she met Yoshida, who let her stay with her only condition being that she has to do the chores. She ran away because of a horrible relationship she had with her mother, although her brother has found her and is set on taking her back home to her mother. What's gonna happen between Saou and her mother? Saou refuses, claiming she's not ready yet. Issa then tries to reason with her, claiming that there are adults that would take advantage of her, but she argues that Yoshida isn't that kind of person. Later, everyone sits in Yoshida's living room area to talk things over. Issa first asks if the two have done anything inappropriate together, to which they deny. Relieved that's the case, Issa then reveals that their mother is worried for her, but Saou refuses to believe that and wishes to know the real reason. Issa then states that Sayu's teacher has come looking for her several times after she left, and her mother has stayed silent and keeps herself locked in her room. Yoshida then requests that Issa give her 3 days for Saou to make a decision whether or not she'll return home or not. Seemingly reluctant to the request, Issa asks if he can have a brief moment alone with her sister and promises that he won't take her away. Yoshida allows it, and Saou agrees to talk with him. Soon, Issa leaves the apartment and gets into his car. Back inside the apartment, Yoshida and Saou talk about their encounter with Issa. Getting dressed, Saou confesses that she's a little anxious, however. When she's with Yoshida, she feels relaxed. When she's ready, Saou heads to her brother's car, and Yoshida feels stubble on his face and decides to shave while Saou is out. The conversation between Saou and her brother starts out with him being relieved that she's found a decent person to stay with. Issa also reveals that their mother contacts him every day asking if he's found her yet, noting she's become unstable after something happened, and more so since Saou's disappearance. He suggests that Saou return home for now, and that he'll do all he can to help her. Confessing that she originally left because of her mental pain, Saou later realized that wherever she went it was no different, and that she was always alone. However, Yoshida made her realize how stupid she was, and the important things that she lost leading up to him. Hence, she resolved herself to think for herself and what she wants to be. Until she knows what she'll take home with her after coming all that way, she refuses to come home. Surprisingly, Issa understands and details that Saou has changed a little, saying she speaks her mind more openly than before. He then informs Saou that he'll buy her a week at maximum, and Saou thanks him. Afterward, Asami comes over to Yoshida's apartment and is brought up to date about Sayu's situation. Yoshida admits that Issa gave Sayu's decision more respect than he anticipated. From there, Saou goes in depth about her past that caused her to run away from home. Saou admits that she never got along with her mother, which was one of the reasons that when she got into high school, she never put any effort into anything. Things like schoolwork and hanging out with friends didn't matter to her, and because of it, she was avoided in school, which was fine with her. However, a single person changed all of that. Her name was Yuko Masaka. In a flashback, Saou and Yuko eat their lunch on the rooftop, and Yuko asks why Saou always looks so cool, and the question baffles Saou. Saou considered Yuko like her, an outcast in their school, but she enjoyed spending time with her. Eventually, a group of girl bullies targeted her, and when Saou asks why they are on the school rooftop, Yuko asks if she rejected someone on the school basketball team, and Saou says yes, she did. Apparently, one of the bullies liked the boy that Saou rejected. Curious as to why she's not the one being targeted, Yuko states that Saou is beautiful and cool. Also, she doesn't look like a bad person. This makes it hard to spread lies about and to get people to hate her. Hence, Yuko was targeted because of her connection with Saou. Although Yuko claims she's all right with it, and the bullies claim that Yuko is just a follower of Saou, she denies that, claiming Yuko was her first friend. Time passes by, and while walking past the girls' bathroom, Saou overhears a group of girls talking about how they taught a girl a lesson. Realizing that it was about Yuko, Saou enters the girls' bathroom and finds Yuko in one of the stalls, soaking wet. Right when Saou tried to confront the girls, she stopped by Yuko. Not wanting to back down from this, Saou grabs her hand and says that she'll never betray her and that they should fight together. Yuko then embraces Saou, and in retrospect, Saou confesses that she thought she acted with the best of intentions. However, this was by far the biggest mistake she ever made. One day on the roof, Saou finds Yuko over the rooftop guardrail, and she confesses her thoughts and opinions about Saou, and confesses how she ruined her with her presence. Before leaping off the rooftop, Yuko's final words were, "So keep on smiling, okay?" This event left Saou emotionally devastated. Eventually, news reporters gathered by the Ojiwara household, where Saou's mother kept them all hidden. When Saou meets with her mother in the dining room area, she reprimands her for everything related to that girl's death, to which Saou apologizes. However, she becomes angry when her mother asks if she really killed Yuko and goes on a rant about her and Yuko's friendship. Believing that she's more of a hindrance than anything staying in that household, Saou leaves, but is stopped midway by her brother Issa. She explains that she's leaving because their mom accused her of killing her friend. Understanding Saou's disposition, he agrees that she needs to have some time away from their mother for a while and later drops her off at the Asahikawa station. Before she leaves, he gives her an envelope with 300,000 yen inside and suggests she stay in a hotel for a while and to contact him if anything goes wrong. Saou thanked Issa and parted ways with him. However, the money given to her quickly ran out, and the feeling of loneliness and worthlessness slowly crept in on her. Even the kindness from her brother felt like pity, and so she cut ties with him. Not long after this, Saou runs into a man who takes her in from what she thought was out of the goodness of his heart. That wasn't the case, however, as a few days after living with him, he wanted her to have sex with him, and so she caved in and did it with him. Back in the present, Saou admits that she's stupid, that she doesn't even remember the man's name that she first did it with. The cycle of staying with men in exchange for sexual favors continued until she met Yoshida. After this long revelation, Asami and Yoshida talk together on his balcony about what Saou told them and what Yoshida will do about Saou. He refuses to get involved in Saou's family issues, and that it's best that she return home. Asami, however, asks what Yoshida wants to do with Saou, which makes him ponder. Yoshida informs Hashimoto and Yuzuha of Saou's eventual departure back home with her brother Issa during lunch at his work. Hashimoto tries to put a positive spin on the situation, however, picks up Yoshida's implied disapproval as he slurps his udon noodles. Yoshida then states that because Saou ran away from home, he could tell that her parents weren't the best. However, Hashimoto points out that her brother is at least on her side, to which Yoshida agrees with, and Hashimoto suggests not delving any deeper into Saou's family problems. Yoshida quietly agrees and continues to eat his udon noodles as Yuzuha and Hashimoto look concerned. That night, Yoshida runs into Issa, who waits for him outside of his apartment. At a park by a bench, Issa apologizes for his rude remarks from the day before. Yoshida brushes it off, and the two sit down and talk. They first talk about Yoshida's first encounter with his sister. The subject then changes to Saou's family backstory involving her parents, and most of Saou's adolescent life leading up to the present day. Issa confesses that Yoshida may be the first parent-like figure that Saou has ever liked. This surprises Yoshida, as Issa then bows in respect and thanks him for taking care of his sister. As Yoshida brushes off the compliment as nothing special, Issa notes that only a few days remain for Yoshida to remain with Saou, and for him to continue being by her side. Back at Yoshida's apartment, Saou is informed of Yoshida's talk with her brother, who then notes the problems she caused for the two of them, and her fear of returning home. Saou, however, realizes that she has to return home and to make sure that she's ready. The next day, Yuzuha eavesdrops on Yoshida talking with another co-worker about how Yoshida stayed overtime to help him with some of his work. Back at home, Saou hands Yoshida a notebook with an assortment of recipes written in it. Its purpose is for Yoshida to cook meals for himself instead of constantly going to the convenience store to buy food for himself. Yoshida appreciates the sentiment and thanks her for it. At work the following day, Hashimoto invites Yoshida to have lunch together, but he declines as he is too busy with his work. Sad that Yoshida declined his offer, Hashimoto advises that Yoshida should take breaks. Hence, Yoshida claims he takes smoke breaks. But that's not what Hashimoto meant. Once Yoshida finishes his dinner, Saou takes Yoshida to the spot on the hill where Asami once took her. Saou then mentions her time with Asami there, and her own self-reflection. She also thanks Yoshida for helping her realize the mistakes that she made, allowing her to avoid any fatal mistakes. To her, her life changed for the better when she met Yoshida, but is resolved to face her mistakes rather than stay and keep running from it. Saou then declares that she wants to prove it in order to be able to live on her own one day, and on the day that she leaves, she hopes that Yoshida cheers her on. To that, Yoshida promises to do it. At the break room of Yoshida's work, Hashimoto, Yuzuha, and himself talk about how the following day, Saou is going to head back home. Hashimoto suggests that Yoshida go home and spend his remaining time with her, but Yuzuha suggests that he follow her back to Hokkaido. However, Yoshida rejects that idea as too weird. but Yuzuha argues that everything he's done that whole time has been weird. Yoshida then asks what had happened with work if he leaves, but Yuzuha reassures him that it'd be all right, and Hashimoto backs her up. Yoshida then mentions that Saou is trying to face her problems head-on alone, and that him getting involved in her situation wouldn't help in the slightest. On the other hand, Yuzuha notes that it wouldn't matter if he helped or not in Saou's situation. Afterward, Yoshida gets a call from Asami, who asks Yoshida if he knows where Saou is, as she's not picking up her phone and can't find her anywhere. Taking initiative of the situation, Hashimoto reports to their superior Airi that Yoshida and he are feeling unwell and wish to take the remainder of the day off. Airi understands and allows them to leave. Although Yoshida still has work that has to be done, Yuzuha volunteers to complete it. Driving down the highway, Hashimoto and Yoshida have a heart-to-heart about Yoshida's feelings for Saou. Mainly it's about how much Yoshida cares and worries for Saou, as that's the only thing that's been on his mind as of late. Hashimoto also rants to him for diverting his attention from Saou the past couple of days by working. Eventually, Airi contacts Yoshida, and they then arrive at Yoshida's apartment where she, Asami, and Saou were waiting for him. It turns out that Saou wanted to see where Yoshida worked at, and wanted to walk home with him. Later that night, Saou asks if she can sleep in bed with Yoshida, because it's her last night there with him and he allows it. Getting into the bed with him, Saou notes how that's the first time the two of them have been so close, and promises that she won't do anything weird. However, she does then grasps onto his back and asks, if Yoshida was her father, would she have been a normal girl? On the other hand, Yoshida states that he's not her father. He's just someone who let her inside of his apartment. Saou agrees, and mentions that the place was kind and warm, but stops midway. Yoshida then reveals that he has one last surprise for Saou, and that's he's going to follow her to Hokkaido. The revelation astonishes Saou, as Yoshida pats her on the head, saying she'll be lonely going home alone, so he'll keep an eye on her and meet her mom. To that, Saou hugs Yoshida and thanks him. In the parking area just outside Yoshida's apartment, Asami hugs Saou as Issa and Yoshida stand by and watch. With that, Asami wishes Saou good luck, and Saou says she's off, en route to Hokkaido. By plane, Yoshida sits next to Saou, who rests in her chair and is covered with a blanket by him. Issa comments how he's surprised that Yoshida is tagging along, who claims he wanted to come along because he wants to support her so she could be brave. Furthermore, because she stayed at his house for an extended time, Yoshida feels that it's his duty to explain it to her family. Speaking bluntly, Issa mentions that he might have a difficult time explaining the situation to their mother, but notes that it'd greatly help Saou in her mental state. Saou then awakens and asks if Yoshida really is coming with her, to which he answers that the plane has already lifted and is in the air. Issa then mentions that there's a bit of a drive to their destination, and if Yoshida wants to back out, he better do it at the airport. But Yoshida flatly rejects that suggestion. The rejection makes Saou giggle, and Yoshida reassures Saou that he would watch over Saou until the end. Both Yoshida and Saou then have a conversation together about how Saou is enjoying the plane ride and how she never really flies often. What will happen when they meet her mom? Subscribe, and if this video gets a lot of likes and comments, I'll make the final part to this series.